It's time for AEW Dynasty, which is tonight, Sunday, April the 6th. We got a pretty stacked card for this one, and we're going to give you guys our predictions for the card, up and down the card, all the way into the main event of John Moxley versus Swerve Strickland. As always, guys, this is 716 Sports Entertainment. I'm your host, Mike Cephaletta, with my partner, Sean O'Neill. We are going to go up and down, give you guys the predictions for the card. As always, like and subscribe our videos and add your comments down below and who you think is going to win and what you think is going to happen with the title and all the other matches tonight, including the quarterfinals for the Owen Hart Cup tournament as well. So with that, Sean, I'll let you kick it off to talk about the pre-show matches, as we won't really count those particularly towards our predictions, but the first one is Nick Wayne and CRU, which is Action Andretti and Leo Rush versus AR Fox and Top Flight of Dante Martin and Darius Martin.
So out of the pre-show matches, I don't think this is the one that matters as much as the other match that we'll talk about in a moment. I think the big point of this one is just continuing the Leo Rush Action Andretti feud against Top Flight. Ever since Leo Rush convinced Action Andretti to leave, they've sort of been antagonistic against each other. Um, I have to imagine the faces probably win here. The Top Flight AR Fox team, just because it's not really much of a kind of a nothing burger match. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would agree with you. They usually like to start these things off and have the faces just look good on a pre-show match. And, it doesn't really mean much if it's going to, kind of sit on the pre-show. It's just sort of there to warm up the crowd, I think. So, yeah, I agree with you. I don't really see much more for this match. The second pre-show match, and I don't know if this one's going to go on first or second, but it's going to be Max Caster versus a to be determined opponent right now. We're thinking it's going to be Anthony Bowens, but I don't know for certain. What do you think?
I mean, with them breaking up, the two of them with Castor and Bowens, and I think the bigger story coming out of that was Castor went out acting like he was the best wrestler of the group and has I don't know if I'm exactly right with this, but I'm pretty sure that he's lost every match since they broke up, and he proclaimed himself as the best wrestler. Um, I have to imagine that that streak continues, especially if it's a returning Bowens. He is going to get that pop for coming back and just continuing to bring down the egotistical actions of Caster. And I don't know if this is just going to lead up to them reuniting at some point because of a change of heart from Caster and realizing he's not God's gift to wrestling like he's been acting. I mean, dude,
I
dude is
always enjoy him
fantastic.
though. I enjoy his raps. I
Oh,
think his character's interesting enough.
his entrances are the highlight, and they were the highlight of their team. Um, I feel like it's a mistake on AEW's part to not be able to have that going on. So hopefully they find a way to either right this ship with their tag team or a way to continue having Caster do his thing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So we don't know the specific order of the main card proper, so we're just going to go up and down and we'll lead to the main event. So this is going to be our official predictions then for the main card. So to start off, we'll start with the men's Owen Hart Tournament Cup quarterfinal match. Will Ospreay versus Kevin Knight. And I'll go first with this one. I think this is an easy Will Ospreay win. I mean, I think Will Ospreay is one of your biggest stars, and it makes sense for him to be in the finals of the Owen Hart Cup. Whether or not he wins or loses that, it's hard to say. But Will Ospreay is a superstar. He's a future world champion, and I think whoever wins the championship for in the main event, I wouldn't be surprised if Will Ospreay is the one to challenge that person.
Oh, I can't disagree with you on that. Osprey is, in my opinion, going to be the guy who takes the title off of whoever wins tonight. Will Osprey is probably my second favorite current active wrestler and top favorite one out of AEW.
Mhm.
I think that the guy is just astounding in both his promos and his ring work. The fact, I mean, he had a tag match this past week where he teamed with his opponent, and that's how they announced that they'd be facing each other here at Dynasty. But Knight isn't a quantity that anybody knows, and this is Will Ospreay you're talking about. There's zero chance that he loses this match.
Yeah, I completely agree. He's just way too good. His match that he had at the last show, Revolution, was just outstanding. That steel cage match that he had, I loved that. I loved
Versus
everything.
Fletcher, yeah.
Yeah, I mean Fletcher's great too, and we'll talk about him in a minute. But I thought that that match was absolutely outstanding. Went a little longer than I would have liked it to go, but I mean, just top marks all the way around. Um, which leads us to our next match in the Owen Hart Tournament Cup for the women of Mercedes Moné versus Julia Hart. Um,
This is an
I
easy one.
I will let you go first with this one.
This is definitely an easy one. It's Mercedes Monet. Like they refuse to have her lose, and everything they're doing is it seems like building up to Mercedes versus Athena from Ring of Honor at some point, and I think that Athena is going to be the one to take the title, at least one of the titles off of Mercedes. But this is just this being part of the Owen Hart tournament is just a stepping stone to that larger storyline.
I think I would agree with you there. I don't I mean I like Julia Hart. She's a fine wrestler, but I just think that Mercedes isn't going to lose yet. She's too big a star. I mean, I personally don't care for her all that much. I never really liked her that much in WWE when she was Sasha Banks, but I don't see her losing. She's the way bigger star and she's got the belts and it seems like a relatively nothing match. So good for Julia Hart for making it to the quarterfinal, but yeah, just to your point, I just don't see Mercedes losing. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
go Mercedes money for this one. And then the third match in the Owen Hart Cup tournament is a men's match between Kyle Fletcher and Mark Briscoe. I will go first with this one. I think this is an easy Kyle Fletcher win as well. I think Kyle Fletcher, obviously, on the last pay-per-view, having that loss to Will Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher looked like a killer in that match as well. He completely tore his body to shreds. And I like Mark Briscoe, but I think this is Kyle Fletcher's match to lose. So I'm going with Kyle Fletcher.
As much as I like Mark Briscoe and the fact that everyone still gives him an opportunity after the tragedy of losing his brother, I think that he's the guy who is there to come out, look good during a match, do all of his moves, but still somehow lose. And with how high AEW has been on Fletcher since they turned him on Osprey, um, I feel like that he needs to get back on track after losing in that cage match at the last event. So I have to agree on this one 100%. It's going to be a Fletcher win,
I hope that this whole show isn't just you and I agreeing on everybody who's
right?
going to win, but I guess we'll see. The next match for the AEW World Tag Team Championships is the Hurt Syndicate of Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin with MVP versus the Learning Tree of Big Bill and Brian Keith. Who do you got and why?
So in relation to what you just said about us agreeing on all these matches, I feel like it's still probably going to continue here. But this event seems like a lot of these matches are kind of predictable. The one positive is that everyone in these matches are fantastic wrestlers. So even if the outcomes are what we expect, at least they'll be fantastic matches.
Mhm.
Um, I think that the Hurt Syndicate is the lock is has a hurt lock on this particular match.
But it,
Um, yeah, I mean, the Learning Tree needs some big wins. Not 100% sure where they're going with that storyline with Jericho because it almost seems like they're trying to break Jericho off on his own again. Um, and which stinks because I think the Learning Tree gimmick was absolutely hysterical. But I think the bigger story that's going to come out of this match is I think that MJF is going to be who helps the Hurt Syndicate win with the storyline they have going with MVP trying to recruit MJF and Lashley like being real against that. I think MJF's going to come out help them win in an attempt to win over the hurt dealer Bobby Lashley.
and I think that that makes sense, right? Because like MGF isn't in a formal match on the show, and he's one of your biggest stars. So I think that's the storyline that he's in right now. And while it's not at the main event, I think that it makes sense to have MJF be involved in that storyline, given everything that's been going on Dynamite. As far as my prediction, I agree with you. I mean, Bobby Lashley hasn't, I don't believe he's lost yet since he's,
I don't
been
think
in
so.
AEW, and I don't think he's going to lose now. I mean, and also Shelton Benjamin, I give him top marks for everything he's done in AEW since he's signed there as well. I mean, the last few years of him being in WWE, he was just enhancement talent, for most of it. And I think he's really, while he is in the twilight of his career, I think that this has been a nice little renaissance for him. And I think that he's looked really good. I mean, he's always been very athletic and he's always been a great wrestler. And they just, they for the last 5 years of his career in WWE, they never used him for anything, So I think this makes sense. And I think that the Hurt Syndicate retains easy.
It was nice to see. I mean, it had to be super simple for when Lashley and Benjamin came over for them just to literally carry over that gimmick.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, WWE 100% screwed up with that gimmick. They
Oh,
had
yeah.
gold, they had gold there, and the fact that they let that fall apart, and I don't know who's to blame for the way it was booked, if that's Vincent Kennedy or just badly written backstage, but the fact that they let that drop and walk to AEW is a huge loss.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, I've talked about this on many occasions. I think Bobby Lashley was one of the best WWE champions of the last 10 years. I mean, I loved his almighty gimmick in WWE. I loved the entrance music that they assigned to him. He felt very final boss, if you will, right?
Yep,
Like when that music came out and he came out in his match with Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. Oh my God, that was like one of the best matches I've ever seen. I love Bobby Lashley. He's always been one of my favorites, and I'm really glad that he's still wrestling and that he still looks like a killer because I think Bobby Lashley's just the best. So yeah, I'm gonna
it
go with
was
the Hurt Syndicate as well.
the funny thing about his entrance music is it kind of always reminded me of Reigns's. Like it
Yeah,
had the same kind of emotional impact as hearing like that final boss music that
yeah,
you mentioned.
yeah, completely agree. The next match is a title versus mask match for the Ring of Honor World Championship between Chris Jericho and Bandito. So, who do you got and why?
So this is an interesting one because being title versus mask and with how sacred like the mask tradition is for luchadors, I have a hard time seeing Bandito lose unless Bandito is moving away from wrestling potentially. Because usually when a luchador loses their mask, they're done. Or they just move on to like when WCW took the mask off Ray and what an absolute failure that was, and how he had to figure out a way to go back to being that. So I have a hard time seeing Bandito lose this just because of the whole tradition. And I don't know, Jericho and his constant winning of bouts and almost burying people is one of the things that aggravates me the most about AEW. Um, you have so much better homegrown talent and people who you should be putting titles on,
Mhm.
and instead you keep putting them on Jericho.
Yeah. I think I agree with you as well. I mean, unless to your point, unless Bandito is going to be done, I think that you don't take the mask off of him. And, Jericho's been around forever. I don't think it hurts Jericho to lose at all. And he's held that Ring of Honor belt for a little while now, I believe. So I think it's time to put it on somebody else. So I'm going to say the same thing that you said as well with putting it on Bandito. I don't really care about this match. I haven't cared about Jericho in a long time since he was the
No,
inaugural AEW champion. I mean, some of his gimmicks are fun. The learning tree was fun. The gimmick that he did with what were they called? The um
Jericho Appreciation Society.
Jericho Appreciation Society, yeah. And then what was the one before that? Oh God, I'm drawing
He he's been in so many factions that I can
yeah,
barely
I'm
remember
drawing a
the
blank. I mean,
names.
I liked the Jericho Appreciation Society, but yeah, it's just like the man is like constantly trying to reinvent himself, and he's what 52 years old now at this point. Like, I think we got to be getting close to hanging it up. I mean, he's done so much for the business, and AEW would not be where it is today without him. Like making him the inaugural champion, I think was one of the smartest things that they did. Instead of
Yep.
putting it on somebody that like the mainstream audience didn't know. I think
I
that
think it was Hangman, right? Was who he beat for that inaugural title,
that sounds
if I
right.
recall correctly.
That sounds right. Yeah, I mean, and that was absolutely the smart thing to do. And then I mean, you talk about all the history of, not putting it on Cody and everything else like that, and, eventually getting it onto Kenny Omega, which I think was smart too. Um, and, John Moxley's first title run. But yeah, I think Jericho's another one of these guys who it's time. Like
Yeah,
you're done. And, you use what time you have left to put over other people. So I'm gonna go with Bandito for this one.
I will say I think that Jericho's learning tree gimmick is probably my favorite one. I think the fact that he's playing like this clueless, out of touch character who it thinks the fans are in love with him, and when they actually despise him and his gimmick, and that he's actually leaning into the fact that he's doing these things that the internet is accusing him of, I think is absolutely hysterical.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think one of these days we really need to do a full breakdown of just, and I know I guess we're a part of that now, but I think we need to do a full breakdown of how awful the internet wrestling community is. I would
Oh,
really love to like take a look at the history and take a look at how the internet wrestling community has just gotten so much stuff wrong and has just thought that they've had way more influence over things than they actually have. And, I know that we're a part of that now, but I mean, let's be honest here. We're not, we are not homers for anybody, and we don't just kiss up to every single thing that we're seeing, on this channel. And you will never, like, to our audience, you guys will never get that from us. We will always tell you the truth about how we feel about things. We are not going to suck up and say that we like somebody who everybody else on the internet seems to like, or we hate somebody because of their politics or anything else like that, right? We are always going to tell you the truth, and we're always going to keep it to sports on this
yep.
channel. Like it's never going to be about any of that outside crap because that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here for enjoyment, and we're here to talk about, what we're here to talk about wrestling. So,
And
um
and as much as we try to be impartial, everybody is still going to have things that they favor.
yeah, absolutely.
But we're always going to tell you a reason behind why we have the opinion we do.
Yeah, 100%. So that takes us to our next match, champion Daniel Garcia versus Adam Cole in a singles match for the AEW TNT Championship. This match will have no time limit, no outside interference will be permitted. So who do you got and why?
So this feud has been going on for a little while now. They've been going back and forth, teaming up with each other's teams, facing each other's teammates. I think that honestly, I think this might be the first one we might disagree on. I think that Adam Cole wins here. He hasn't really had a big signature win in a while. And I think getting the belt onto Cole, it will be good for him.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm going to disagree. I think Daniel Garcia retains. I think Daniel Garcia is still, still young, still an up and coming guy. I think putting the TNT championship on him was smart. I think this will be a hell of a match because Daniel Garcia is awesome. And he did just recent, I believe it was just recently, right? Within the last 6 months or so that he re-signed with AEW as well. So I could
Yeah,
certainly see them keeping him on there as a reward, right? And Adam Cole has been with AEW now for what, 2 or 3 years, and they usually do like 3 or 5 year contracts. So
yeah.
I imagine he's got a ton of time left on that deal, and I would not be surprised if he ends up back in WWE because there's been a lot of talk about how Britt Baker is super unhappy as well in AEW. And I know are they still together? I think they're still together, right?
I don't know because there was talk that they had broken up, but then nobody else had been saying anything about it in a while. So, I mean, here's hoping that they didn't screw up their relationship.
I
Um,
mean, my point was though that she's gone. Like once her
yeah.
deal is up, she's gone. She hates it there. She hates the politics there, and she's made numerous mentions about it. And I don't see her sticking around. And I think WWE will give her a ton of money,
Oh
if,
yeah.
if she wants
I
to
mean,
go there and do that.
I'm not the biggest Britt Baker fan, but I think that if she came in and joined like NXT, she would really benefit from that.
1,000%.
Um, and then real quick too, before we move on to the next match, shout out to Daniel Garcia too, as he is a hometown Buffalo boy. So repping that 716. And I hope I'm
Another
wrong,
reason why
but
I
I think
want
that
him to
means something.
win.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope he retains.
All right. Our next match is a trios match for the AEW World Trios Championship, and it will be the Death Riders, Claudio Castagnoli, Pac, and Wheeler Yuta versus Rated FTR of Cope, Cash Wheeler, and Dax Harwood of FTR. I'm going to go first with this one. I think that Rated FTR is going to win, and the reason I say that, I know that there's been some dissension on the weekly shows on Dynamite with that, but I think that I can't call him Cope. I'm sorry. It's Edge. I think that Edge losing that big match against Moxley at the last pay-per-view, and with all of the nonsense with Christian cashing in and everything else like that, and how that match was just an absolute cluster F, if you will.
Yeah.
I don't see Edge losing two pay-per-view matches in a row. I don't see it. So I'm gonna say, for that reason alone, I'm gonna say that Rated FTR wins and takes the titles.
So I'm sure you can recall how angry I was at the ending to that last show. I really felt like, I mean, it's slightly off topic here, but I want to get my thoughts across on that real quick.
Yeah.
I really felt that the ending to that show was a slap in the face to all AEW fans. It came across as poorly booked, poorly written, and kind of treated the fans like they were stupid in just the way that it was put together. But moving on from that, you do have a good point. So my heart goes two different ways on this match. Like I've always loved Edge. He was one of my favorite WWE wrestlers. Um, and seeing him lose the big match, he does need another big win. I do think that the dissension from it's Cash is the bald one from FTR, right? Or
Uh,
Dax.
uh, Dax is.
Okay, I think that very well could come into play, but I also think that this match could be the beginning of the end for the Death Riders. And especially with this match being earlier in the night, with the main event being Moxley and his title, I
Mhm.
think that the we're reaching the twilight season of the Death Riders. I know a lot of people aren't fans of the way that they act and the way that these titles keep getting defended and won, or the fact that we haven't seen a title in, God, what, 4 months now since he won? It's even longer than that, isn't it? Um,
Yeah.
and like I said, I think I'm going to agree with you, even though I was originally leaning the other direction and thinking that the Death Riders would win. I think Rated FTR wins, and it starts the downfall of the Death Riders.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna agree with that. And I mean, I obviously already made my prediction, but I like everything that you said, and I think that that might be the whole point of this pay-per-view, right? Other than the Owen Hart Cup, I kind of feel like this is going to be, sort of the implosion and the end of the Death Riders, right? And I think these guys are going to go their separate ways with this. So I guess we'll see. Um, this takes us to, in my opinion, what is probably going to be the match of the evening. Kenny Omega defending the international championship versus Ricochet versus Speedball Mike Bailey. I'll let you go first on this one. Who do you got and why?
Who is this Ricochet you speak of? Isn't that Andrew Tate? Um, so as much as I love, like I'm not a fan of Ricochet outside of wrestling. I don't like his general attitude. But I will say that this character reversal that he has undertaken, where he's become this Andrew Tate-esque alpha male, I think that it's given him the refresh that he needed.
Mhm.
Kind of wish that WWE would have given an opportunity to actually run with something, because he's doing fantastic character work. I mean, we already know the guy can go in the ring. He's done it for years when he was with Lucha Underground, when he was with WWE. I mean, hell, NXT, when he started in NXT, absolutely phenomenal the work that he did.
Sure.
And I think his downfall that we all knew for WWE was when he got thrown into that random match with Brock Lesnar at
The
Saudi
Saudi
Arabia.
show. Yeah.
And then after that, it was pretty much he needed to be gone at that point. And I think leaving is the best thing that could have happened to him. I don't think he is ready to take that next step here to be a champion, especially this champion that Omega is holding, especially with Omega having just come back, what, 2 months ago? finally getting a belt back on him. And the guy is one of the top five wrestlers in the world. And I am so thankful that he got over his illness and is able to get back in the ring because it would have been a loss for all of us as wrestling fans
Talk
to
about
not be
Kenny,
able to see
right?
that again. About Omega now, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like it would have been a huge loss to the wrestling fandom to not be able to see him in the ring. And as far as the third guy, Speedball goes, he looks like a 12-year-old with a mullet. Um, I'm not a fan. I was not really ever a fan of him in TNA. He just kind of comes across as obnoxious to me a little bit, and not in like the good way that Ricochet is. So I think this is relatively easy to predict that Omega wins.
I agree. I think it's an easy Omega win. I think everything you said, I agree with. Kenny Omega is awesome, one of the best wrestlers on the planet. I think he's probably, I would say he's my third favorite person in AEW behind Bobby Lashley and behind Will Ospreay. I think he's out. I just think he's outstanding, and it's too soon to take the title off of him. To your
Yep,
points about Ricochet, I Ricochet in WWE always to me came across as kind of like a geek. And I
100%.
I like fantastic in the ring, right? Like, and he had a lot of good matches. Like towards the end when they were pairing him with Braun Strowman and like all that crap, and his match with Brock Lesnar, that was all garbage. I mean, he had some fantastic matches in there when he was, in the mid card when he was feuding with Gunther and stuff like that. Although, Gunther could wrestle a brown paper bag and get a 5-star match out of it. Um, but I just WWE, I don't know, and I don't know if it was that them just presenting him that way or if it was just they never really just got a good gimmick off the ground. But to me, he always just kind of came across as a geek who could not speak on the microphone at all. And I think
Um,
that's what killed him in WWE. That's my opinion, but yeah, I don't know. That's where I am with Ricochet.
so not to point any fingers at anyone, be it Ricochet or WWE Creative, I don't know who's actually to blame, but I think you're 100% right there. He his promo work was probably the thing that dragged him down the most.
Yeah.
And because, like I said, we all know the guy can go in the ring. He's probably
Mhm.
one of the most athletically gifted people. I mean, hell, watch one of his matches with Osprey.
Oh
Like,
yeah. Out of this
uh,
world. Out of this world.
and I don't know if it's because they were just running the scripted promos or if he just couldn't figure out how to get himself over on the mic. But whatever they did in AEW for this new character is working great for him.
Yeah, completely agree. Which leads us to our final two matches, the two title matches. So we'll start with the women's match first. Timeless Tony Storm versus Megan Bayne. Who do you got and why?
So I have a hard time thinking that Tony Storm loses the title again already. She hasn't really had another contender since she finished with forgetting her name at the moment.
Mariah May.
Mariah May, thank you. Since she finished her program with Mariah May. Um, and like I know people are real high on this Megan Bayne girl, but other than being like size wise, she hasn't really impressed me. She comes across as kind of wooden to me, and I don't know. I don't know if this is more of it's an easy matchup to put Storm in just to keep her reign going in the right direction. But I don't know that this is the right contender for her here.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of agree with you. She doesn't really seem like just doesn't it doesn't I don't know. I don't really get much from her. This kind of seems like just a filler feud, I think.
Yep.
And Toni Storm won the title too recently, right? Like she had that outstanding match that at Revolution with Mariah May, with perhaps one of the bloodiest matches. I literally needed to close my eyes during that match because it was so freaking bloody. I mean,
That was brutal.
I'm a total pansy ass when it comes to blood, ladies and gentlemen, but yeah, I had to like cover my eyes a couple of times because I was like, this is disgusting. But an absolute outstanding match there. And I give Toni Storm all the credit in the world. I think that she was another one of these people in WWE where Vince did not know what to do with her at all. She was a great wrestler, obviously, as you can see from her work in AEW. And that gimmick where Charlotte Flair like threw a pie at her and
Yep.
it's like this girl needs to get out of WWE. Like it's atrocious. So
That was
I'm glad she found her way, and I think she retains easy.
Tony Storm became a victim of the Charlotte Flair effect.
Yeah. Yeah. Which you guys have heard us say plenty about.
Yep.
So that leads us to our main event. As you can see above me, Jon Moxley versus Swerve Strickland. So I will go first with this one. I think that Swerve's going to win. Swerve's going to win. Swerve is the man. Swerve is an awesome wrestler. I if I didn't, I already mentioned who my top three were in AEW. Swerve is number four for sure. I think Swerve is fantastic. He's one of the best wrestlers they got. Bobby Lashley, obviously, I just love him from his time in WWE. But as far as like their actual talent in Dynamite, it's Osprey and it's Swerve. As far as the younger generation of AEW, who their top stars are. So I'm going with Swerve all the way. I think Swerve wins the title and becomes the new AEW champion.
So if you look at everybody who's ever left WWE to go to AEW, I think if we look back, once everything's said and done, I think Swerve is going to be their biggest loss. The opportunity that they had with Swerve, his charisma, his athletic skill, he is the total package of what a superstar should look like. He sells emotionally in the ring. He sells physically. He My top guys in AEW will always be I'm a huge Hangman Page fan, and then Osprey. Swerve is my number three. I think that he wins today, and I think that it's going to be a brutal match.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
personally do not like Jon Moxley. I didn't like him as Dean Ambrose. I think that he throws the worst fake punches in all of wrestling. Um, he looks he looks like a generic plumber in the ring, and hate I especially hate this character version of him that they've been running. We had, like I mentioned earlier in the episode, we haven't seen the AEW title since he murdered Daniel Bryan for it. Um, and I think, like, how do you go around and not have your title there? I think that honestly, I almost would have rather had Orange Cassidy get the belt off of him just to get the belt off of Moxley.
Well, I mean,
I
I think
hate
that
their
that's the
group.
gimmick, though, right? Like that's the gimmick. That's the whole Death Rider gimmick, I think, right? Like keeping it in that briefcase, right? Like it's fine, but I think it seems like Timu Roman Reigns a little bit, and
100%.
I don't love that.
The fact that every match ends the same way with their group interfering and allowing Moxley to win. You have, I mean, I will say the one thing about the Death Riders I give them credit for is they did go out and get the world's greatest women's wrestler to join their group in Marina Shafir. But I think that I just like you said, it almost seems like a Timu or a Wish version of a quasi bloodline story.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess I told you my thoughts on the way the last pay-per-view ended and how I felt like it was an insult to wrestling fans. I think that that is the other reason why we need to get the belt on Swerve. And it's going to suck because he's going to lose the title at the next one, probably to Osprey, because I think the reward for winning the Owen Cup tournament is a title shot, right?
I think so.
So Osprey is most likely going to win, and I imagine that at the All In, I think is the next one. Is it All In Texas? Um,
It might not be that show though. They might save it for later. I mean, they might save it for Double or Nothing. They might save it for what is that? That's the September show, right? Is that Double or Nothing?
I think so.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I would prefer that. I would like Swerve to get a little bit longer of a reign, unlike the last time when he won, because he didn't hold it for that terribly long before he lost it to Daniel Bryan. And as much as I'm a Daniel Bryan fan, I still think Swerve should have won at least that first match. But that was just another stepping stone into this Death Riders feud beginning. Um, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised. Part of me has been wondering all along if we're going to see Daniel Bryan come back and somehow that causes the Death Riders to lose. We haven't seen Daniel Bryan in 6 or 7 months. And even if it's in a non-wrestling role, he just comes out, somehow distracts Moxley, and that allows Swerve to get the win. I think that that would be a worthwhile way to go. But I think that at the end of the day, Swerve Strickland leaves as your new AEW World Heavyweight Champion.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that also to your point, even if Moxley does retain, Osprey takes it off of him for sure. Like I don't think that there's much more
Yeah,
I don't think that there's much more juice left in this Death Rider story for them. And I think that they need to get something new and something fresh with the belt there. You know, you definitely want to save putting the belt on Osprey for a big event, and maybe that Texas show, which is going to be a stadium show, will be a big event. And you do that there, you crown him there, and then he runs with the belt for a while. Like I think he runs with the belt for a year. Then you have him do all sorts of feuds, but
I
yeah,
do have
completely
one
agree.
more prediction
Yeah,
about this match tonight. I think that you at some point during this match, even though they have a blood feud going, I think you see Adam Page come out and help Swerve. I don't at the end, I know you aren't a normal or regular viewer of Dynamite, but at the end of Dynamite, Swerve and Hangman, it was not at the very, very end, but they got into it backstage and Hangman was doing his usual shtick of, oh, I'm gonna make sure you don't win, you don't deserve this. You deserve everything that I did to you. And Swerve actually admitted that he did deserve all of that. So I think you're going to see Hangman, because Hangman, after Swerve said that, immediately stopped brawling, turned, and just walked away. So I think you're going to see a Swerve or a Hangman involvement in this match, helping Swerve.
I like it. I like it. So those are our predictions, guys. Tell us what you think down in the comments below, and enjoy Dynasty tonight. It's going to be a great show. There's going to be a lot of great matches on that. And as always, smash that subscribe button, smash that like button, and hit us up for notifications, and let us know
Yep.
what you guys think about Dynamite. And we will see you guys to talk about the results of this tomorrow, and look forward to our Monday Night Raw review coming up on Tuesday. That's it, guys. Have a great night.